Elephant. The largest living land mammals, elephants are intelligent, social, and vital to their ecosystems. Physical description. Asian elephant skin is gray, but parts sometimes lack color, especially on and around the ears, forehead, and trunk. This depigmentation is believed to be controlled by genetics, nutrition, and habitat, and generally develops as an elephant ages. Brownish to reddish hair covers the bodies of young elephants. The amount of hair reduces with age, and the color darkens. Elephant skin varies from paper-thin in some places, such as on the inside of the ears, to as thick as 1 inch, 2.54 centimeters, in other places, such as around the back. Despite its thickness, the skin is sensitive due to a rich nerve supply. Elephants protect their skin from the sun and bugs by regularly covering themselves with dirt, sand, and mud. Their large ears function as cooling devices. The ears contain many blood vessels. As an elephant flaps its ears on hot days, the blood in these veins cools, which then cools the elephant's brain and travels back through the body, reducing body temperature by several degrees. An elephant's brain is large, weighing between 9 and 13 pounds, 4 and 6 kilograms. Elephants are thought to be highly intelligent animals, and they have a great capacity to learn. In fact, much of their behavior is learned behavior rather than instinctive behavior. Unlike other mammals where the legs are in an angular position, the elephant's legs are stacked in an almost vertical position under the body. This positioning, along with the detailed anatomy of their long bones, provides a strong support for the animal's great weight. The vertical position of the limbs allows the elephant to remain standing for long periods without expending much energy. It also allows elephants to sleep while standing, as well as while lying down. In most mammals, the bones contain a narrow cavity. In elephants, this cavity is lacking. Instead, a network of dense perforated bone occupies the space, which makes the bone stronger and able to withstand more pressure. The elephant's skeleton is designed for mobility as well as strength. An elephant must have physical structures and coordinated muscular and neurological systems to accomplish survival skills, such as standing on their rear legs and climbing up and down steep slopes. Elephants actually walk on their toes and have a thick, fibrous pad on the bottom of each foot. This pad acts as a shock absorber, protecting the leg and toe bones from jarring under its weight and cushioning each step. The trunk is a fusion of the nose and upper lip. It contains no bones but is composed of muscles, blood and lymph vessels, nerves, little fat, connective tissues, skin, hair, and bristles. Cartilage is found only at the base of the trunk, dividing the nostrils. The trunk has about 150,000 muscle units and tendons that provide the elephant precision as well as strength of movement. These often tiny muscle units tend to be arranged radially or longitudinally, and by acting against one another, allow the trunk to be moved in any direction. Although delicate in its movements, the trunk is also a very powerful organ that can lift heavy objects with ease. Asian elephants have one small projection at the end of their trunk, called a finger, which aids with precision. Elephants use their trunks to take up water and squirt it into their mouths. The trunk is capable of performing many other functions as well, including feeding, snorkeling, dusting, smelling, sifting, sorting, touching, sound production and communication, lifting, pushing, defense, and offense. It can hold about 2 gallons, 7.57 liters, of water. Senses of smell and touch are very important for elephants. Their trunks help them know their world. Asian elephants have 6 sets of teeth, all 6 of which are present in the skull at birth. They are, however, very small. Each successive set of teeth is larger, more complex, and lasts longer than the previous set. As a result, an elephant's skull grows throughout its lifetime to accommodate the new and ever larger teeth. The teeth are replaced in a horizontal progression, similar to that of a conveyor belt. The worn teeth move forward, break and fall out of the mouth, or are swallowed. An elephant's age can be estimated by examining molar sequence and wear. Tusks are modified upper incisors that grow throughout an individual's life at a rate of several inches per year. They are composed of ivory, a material similar to bone that is made primarily of calcium and phosphate. The tusk has a pulp cavity containing nerve tissues. In an adult animal, about 2/3 of the tusk is visible, while the remaining 1/3 is embedded in the socket, or sulcus, in the cranium. Newly developing tusks have a conical cap of smooth enamel that eventually wears off. Not all elephants develop visible tusks. In the Asian species, only some males have large, prominent tusks. Most female and some male Asian elephants have small tusks, called tushes, which seldom protrude more than an inch or two from the lip line. Tushes have a slightly different composition than tusks. They are small and brittle, causing them to easily break. A significant number of adult male Asian elephants are tuskless. The percentage of males with tusks varies by region, with less than 10% in Sri Lanka to approximately 90% in India. This disparity may be a reflection of the intensity of past ivory hunting. In the African elephant species generally, but not always, both the males and females have tusks. Tusks are extremely useful, multi-purpose instruments. Elephants use them to dig for water, salt, minerals, and roots, to debark trees, as levers to manipulate objects in their environment, for rescuing calves, for threat displays, as weapons for defense and offense, as trunk rests, and as protection for the trunk. Size. Elephants are the largest living land animal. Slightly smaller than their African cousins, adult Asian elephants weigh on average between 6,000 and 12,000 pounds, 2,750 to 5,420 kilograms. They typically stand 6 to 12 feet, 1.8 to 3.8 meters, tall at the shoulder. Males are usually larger than females. Native habitat. Asian elephants are found in isolated pockets of India and Southeast Asia, including Sumatra and Borneo. They were formerly widely distributed south of the Himalayas, throughout Southeast Asia, and in China, as far north as the Yangtze River. Asian elephants are considered forest animals. However, they have been observed to prefer zones that include intermittent, open grassy glades. These zones contain transition areas with a great variety of species of plants between grass and forest, not available in dense woodlands. These zones also provide quick escape from the sun. Elephants are adaptable and can live in a variety of environments. They migrate as necessary to find habitat that contains sufficient vegetation and water to meet their enormous daily requirements. Although they are not territorial, they do move about within home ranges. The amount of movement within these ranges appears to be variable from region to region. Data gathered by Smithsonian's National Zoo scientists from radio-collared wild elephants in Myanmar show that elephants typically walk less than 1 to 4 miles, 1.6 to 6.4 kilometers, per day. The home range usually constitutes a loop or a circuit. Home ranges vary in size from 6 to 20 square miles, 15 to 50 square kilometers, to 190 to 580 square miles, 500 to 800 square kilometers. The differences depend on quantity and quality of food and whether or not the area is occupied by bulls or by cows and their offspring. Home ranges of one family, clan, or herd may overlap with another. Human activities such as agriculture have made seasonal migration difficult, creating much conflict between wild elephants and people. Lifespan. Longevity of elephants is not well understood, and most of the available information comes from African elephants. Recent data suggests that African elephants rarely live to the age of 50. Evidence suggests that Asian elephants typically live into their mid-50s, but there is not enough consistent data available on wild Asian elephants to accurately estimate their lifespan. Median life expectancy for female Asian elephants is 47 years old. Communication. Elephants communicate over long distances using low-pitched sounds that are barely audible to humans. These powerful infrasonic rumbles contain specific messages that can be heard and understood by other elephants more than 2 miles away. Scientists believe that an elephant's ability to converse over long distances is essential for its survival. Females in estrus make very low, long calls that bulls hone in on. Breeding herds also use low-frequency vocalizations to warn of predators. Adult bulls and cows have no enemies, except for humans, but young elephants are susceptible to attacks by tigers in the areas where their ranges overlap. When a predator appears, older members of the herd emit intense warning calls that prompt the rest of the herd to clump together for protection and then flee the scene. Elephants possess a highly developed olfactory system. Scent is a valuable mode of communication because it can be long-lasting and function over both short and long distances. Windborne scents provide elephants with clues to the presence of other elephants or potential dangers. Elephants can determine the identity, sex, and reproductive status of another elephant using their trunks to smell the elephant's mouth, temporal gland, genitals, urine, or feces. Elephants of all ages and both sexes touch one another frequently, often to communicate a greeting, excitement, competition, dominance, discipline, reassurance, play, and reproductive status. The trunk is an especially important means of tactile communication. Food, eating habits. Asian elephants are herbivores and spend about 3/4 of each day eating or moving toward a food or water source. Feeding is not continuous, with 3 principal feeding bouts in the early morning, afternoon, and night. Elephants tend to rest and nap during the hottest hours of the day. They feed primarily on grasses, but also consume large amounts of browse, including leaves, roots, vines, twigs, shoots, and bark, as well as fruit. Cultivated crops such as bananas and sugarcane are also a favored food, placing them in conflict with farmers. Foraging herds can be very destructive to cropland or forest because they are capable of pushing down large trees in order to gather their foliage and bark. Elephants only assimilate about 44% of what they eat. Therefore, they must consume great amounts of food, about 165 to 330 pounds, 74 to 150 kilograms per day, and about 50 gallons, 189 liters, of water per day in the wild. A very large male might eat twice that amount. The elephants at the Smithsonian's National Zoo are fed throughout the day to simulate their natural feeding pattern. Their diets are individually tailored to each animal's needs, taking into account health, age, activity level, and metabolism. A typical diet for an adult female elephant could total about 135 pounds, consisting of about 2.5 bales of hay. Each bale weighs about 45 pounds, or 20 kilograms. 8 pounds of elephant chow, an alfalfa-based pellet that is nutrient-dense, providing protein, vitamins, and minerals. 2 pounds each of bran and oats, and 10 pounds of fruits and vegetables, including sweet potatoes, carrots, and apples. Apple fiber pellets are fed as training reinforcement, and browse is fed as available. Social structure: Asian elephants typically live in small herds of related females, their female offspring, and immature males. These elephants are extremely social and form complex relationships, working together to raise their young and to protect the group. Unlike African elephants, they do not have a matriarch. However, individual females will sometimes take on a more dominant role. Male elephants typically leave the herd when they reach puberty, between the ages of 8 and 13. This is often a gradual process, driven by the male's competitive and independent nature and the female's lack of tolerance for their aggressive behavior. Young males tend to form loose bachelor herds, sometimes following female herds or foraging alone. As males age, they typically become more competitive and spend more time alone. Reproduction and development. Wild males and females reach sexual maturity between 8 and 13 years of age. Females usually have their first birth in their mid-teens. Behavioral studies tell us that males are unlikely to father a calf until they are in their 30s, when they are best able to compete with older, larger males. By about the age of 30, most healthy males begin to experience a regular period of heightened sexual and aggressive activity called must. Must is a massive rush of testosterone that makes males aggressive and competitive. It also makes them especially attractive to females in estrus. During must, a green fluid drips from the penis and is secreted from the elephant's temporal glands. In human care, both male and female elephants mature earlier than in the wild. The onset of must in zoo elephants has come as early as 8 years of age. This phenomenon is thought to be due to consistent quality nutrition and environmental conditions, and the lack of suppression or competition by older animals. Females come into estrus about every 115 days. Gestation is between 21.5 and 22 months, the longest gestation period for any animal. Usually one calf, occasionally two, is born and weighs between 150 and 350 pounds, 68 to 158 kilograms. There is an average birth interval of 3 to 8 years, depending on environmental conditions. Calves stand and nurse soon after birth. By 6 months, calves begin feeding on vegetation. They also eat their mother's dung for several years, which contains nutrients as well as the symbiotic bacteria that aid in the digestion of cellulose. Weaning is a gradual process that may continue until the mother delivers another calf. Males leave their natal herd at sexual maturity, but females remain within the family unit throughout their lives.